Well, I think, no, I agree on that. There are some situations. One thing I would add that we've talked about tonight is that, we talked about this property tax, which pointed out is so very high. New York State has the highest property tax in the United States. And it is not by accident, it's a policy. I've written a number of articles that have been published on the subject, and it's a policy that they have in our state legislation, the governor's office, not to tax on income, but rather to tax on the local level on property taxes. Because it makes an awful lot of political sense on, say, if you have a state representative, and if you ask them, they say, well, I'm not doing anything at all on the, say, in terms of income tax, I'm keeping the income tax nice and low, but then they will have an unfunded mandate, which is a win-win situation. They'll say, we want you to do this, that, and the other thing, and with property tax, you have no option. They just say you have to do this. So we have the highest property. It's a decision that's made, a very calculated decision to have the tax placed on property. Like I said, I've written a number of articles on it, and it is horribly unfair, and I agree with Jack mentioned he has a neighbor that's on Social Security, and my view is that if somebody, say, sells their Google stock and they make $100,000, that's where the tax should be paid, as opposed to squeezing it out of people on property taxes and almost discouraging them from improving their property. And not only that, it's a very wasteful process. People, as you pointed out, all the foreclosure, it's a cost of advertising. The Plattsburgh Press Republican is brutal. The process is brutal. Nobody, say for example, if you get a raise in pay and your taxes go up, do you challenge the Internal Revenue Service? Of course you don't. We pay, when we have, say like Pyramid Mall and others, and they beat every little town on these types of things, and they fight you, all the major companies fight you, and it's a huge, it's a terrible waste, and it's a very inefficient system. You're taxing people who don't have the money as opposed to people who are making the money. What you're doing is going after many times retired people, people on fixed income, and that's what it's happening. So, but it's not a mistake. In New York State, the reason we're leading the way is it's a design policy. I think it's a horrible policy, but it's a design policy. It's not an accident. It's not because municipal governments in New York State are terrible. It's we have, in terms of, we're number one in property tax, we're right absolutely dead in the middle on income tax. So we have just chosen to get the money out of taxpayers and homeowners as opposed to getting it out of people who are actually making the money.
And I believe that's one of the reasons why you see the statistics that you have here, Ollie, in terms of why is it that the property tax is higher here. It's because they don't use income taxes. I'm old enough to remember when the state actually funded education, and actually, and the federal government actually funded education. We did this. It wasn't on the property tax all the time. It was money that came from the governments, and that was earned by property, by income tax, not property tax. Much is, in my opinion, a much fairer way.
The other thing I would point out, anytime a politician says, I'm going to cut your income tax, they're also saying, I'm going to raise your property taxes. You're squeezing the balloon. And they'll never say that. That's all I would say. And they always ask you, and you say, well, gee, you know, whatever. Well, then you should talk to your supervisor or talk to your school board.
And they'll get reelected.
But
the
yeah,
school
no,
board is volunteers.
that is a game that's played. And that's what we, but the thing of it is, they're not doing it in other states. We do it in New York. That's where we're doing it. And they'll tell you, you know, any politician runs, I cut the income tax. Oh, this is, yeah, the property tax. Oh, I don't know. You have to talk to the supervisor on that one. I'm not sure how that works. That's what you get.
Good. Cool.
Is there anyone who hasn't had a chance to speak? Can we spread it around just a little bit? As long as we're going at it, let's do it.